Rashid had chosen the small roadside restaurant on purpose. It stood at the edge of the old market in Multan, where the evening traffic hummed like a tired lullaby, and the smell of grilled meat drifted lazily into the street. The signboard flickered above the entrance, and inside, a handful of tables were scattered beneath slow-moving fans that pushed warm air around the room. He liked this place because no one knew him here. He slipped into a corner booth, his shoulders slightly bent as if the world had grown heavier over the years. He was only 32, but there was a quiet exhaustion in his eyes that made him seem older. On his left hand, a faint white line circled his ring finger, the ghost of a wedding band he no longer wore. The waiter came, took his order, and left. Rashid leaned back and stared at the empty chair across from him. He had once imagined that chair would always belong to someone, someone who would laugh at his dry jokes, steal fries from his plate, and remind him to eat slowly. But that life had slipped away, piece by piece. The restaurant door creaked open, letting in a gust of cooler night air. Rashid glanced up without thinking, and then looked back down at the table. A woman stood near the entrance, her dupatta drawn carefully around her shoulders. Beside her was a little boy, perhaps 5 or 6 years old, holding her hand with both of his as if afraid the world might pull her away. They looked tired. The woman's sandals were dusty. The boy's shirt was slightly oversized, sleeves folded twice. He stared at the tables with wide, hopeful eyes. The waiter approached them with a polite but hesitant expression. Rashid couldn't hear their conversation clearly, but he saw the woman open her small purse and count a few notes in her palm. She spoke softly. The waiter nodded, then glanced around at the nearly full restaurant. There was only one empty seat left, across from Rashid. The waiter walked toward him. "Sir," he said gently, "if you don't mind, this sister and her son just need a place to sit for a while. They will order something small. Can they share the table?" Rashid's first instinct was to say no. He had come here to be alone, to eat in silence, to avoid the noise of life. But before he could speak, the woman herself approached, her son half hiding behind her. "I'm sorry," she said softly, her voice carrying both dignity and exhaustion. "My son, hungry. Can we stay a while? We won't disturb you." Her words weren't dramatic, they weren't begging, they were simple, honest. The boy peeked out and looked at Rashid, not with pity, not with expectation, just hunger. Rashid swallowed. He nodded. "Yes," he said quietly, "please." They sat down. The boy sat directly across from him, legs swinging slightly above the floor. The woman kept her purse on her lap, as if guarding the few rupees inside. For a few minutes no one spoke. The waiter came and took their order, one plate of rice, just one. Rashid noticed the woman say, "It's enough." When the food arrived, she placed the plate in front of her son. The boy didn't touch it immediately. He looked at her first. "Ami," he asked. "I'm not very hungry," she replied with a small smile. The boy began eating, carefully at first, then faster as hunger overcame manners. Rashid looked away, pretending not to notice the way the mother watched every bite with quiet relief. His own food arrived, grilled chicken, naan, salad. The aroma suddenly felt overwhelming. He stared at his plate, then at the empty chair that had once symbolized loneliness. It no longer felt empty. The boy's eyes kept drifting toward Rashid's plate. He tried not to stare, but children are not skilled at hiding desire. Rashid noticed. Without making a big gesture, he tore a piece of naan and placed some chicken on a small side plate. He slid it gently toward the boy. "For him," he said. The woman immediately shook her head. "No, please, we can't." "It's too much for me anyway," Rashid interrupted, his voice steady but kind. "He can help." The boy looked at his mother for permission. After a long second, she nodded. "Say thank you," she whispered. "Thank you, uncle," the boy said, his smile sudden and bright, like sunlight breaking through clouds. That smile did something inside Rashid's chest, something he hadn't felt in months. They began to talk slowly. The boy's name was Hamza. He loved drawing trucks and wanted to become a driver someday. He asked Rashid if he had children. Rashid paused. No, he replied, not yet. Hamza nodded as if this were simply a fact that could change tomorrow. The mother's name was Amina. She explained in careful words that they had come to the city recently. Her husband had passed away the previous year after a sudden illness. She now stitched clothes at home, taking whatever work she could find. Sometimes, she said softly, the work is less, but Allah provides. Rashid listened. He had spent months feeling like life had taken from him unfairly. His own marriage had ended not with death but with distance, small arguments that grew into walls, pride that refused to bend, dreams that no longer aligned. He and his wife had parted ways quietly, like strangers who once knew each other too well. He had blamed fate, blamed timing, blamed everything. But sitting across from Amina and Hamza, he felt something shift. Amina was not bitter, not angry, just tired and determined. Hamza finished eating and leaned back happily, his small stomach finally full. He looked at Rashid again. Uncle, he said suddenly, you looked sad when we came. Rashid blinked. Did I? Yes, Hamza said seriously. My Ami says faces tell stories. Amina smiled apologetically. He talks too much. It's okay, Rashid said. Hamza leaned forward. Are you hungry too? Rashid laughed quietly. I'm eating, or I? No, Hamza insisted, shaking his head. I mean here. He pointed to his own chest. The question was so innocent it almost hurt. Rashid hesitated, then answered honestly, maybe a little. Hamza thought for a moment, then slid his half-finished cup of juice toward Rashid. You can share mine, he said. Rashid stared at the small plastic cup. It wasn't about the drink, it was about the gesture. A child who had almost nothing was offering what he had. Rashid felt his throat tighten. Thank you, he whispered. When the bill arrived, Rashid picked it up before Amina could reach for her purse. Please, she began, we cannot let you. You already let me share your table, he replied gently. Let me share this. She hesitated, pride flickering in her eyes. Then she nodded slowly. May Allah reward you, she said. Amin, Rashid replied. Outside, the night had deepened. Streetlights cast long golden reflections on the pavement. Rashid stepped out with them. Where are you going? He asked. Just nearby, Amina said. We rent a small room behind the bakery. Hamza waved at him enthusiastically. Bye, uncle. Next time we eat together again. Rashid smiled. Next time, he agreed. They began walking away. Hamza skipped slightly ahead, then ran back to grab his mother's hand. Amina looked back once and offered a small nod of gratitude. Rashid stood there for a long moment after they disappeared into the narrow lane. He realized something unexpected. He had not eaten alone. More than that, he had not felt alone. The emptiness that had followed him for months felt lighter, as if someone had quietly opened a window inside his heart. He thought about how easily he had almost refused them, how easily he could have protected his loneliness like a possession. Instead, a simple sentence had changed the night. My son, hungry, can we stay a while? He walked back toward his car slowly, but instead of driving home immediately, he took out his phone. He scrolled through contacts until he reached a familiar name. He hesitated. Then he typed a message to his younger sister, whom he had not visited in weeks. Are you home? I was thinking of coming over for tea. He pressed send before doubt could stop him. As he started the engine, he felt something steady inside him. Not a dramatic transformation, not a sudden miracle, just a quiet understanding. Sometimes we think we want to be alone. But what we really need is someone to sit across from us and remind us that hunger is not only of the stomach. That night, Rashid had walked into the restaurant believing he would eat in silence. He walked out carrying something warmer than food, proof that even a tired mother and a hungry child could mend a heart that had quietly been breaking. And for the first time in a long while, the empty chair across from him no longer felt like a symbol of loss. It felt like a space waiting to be filled.